Class. My name is Alicia. My lesson that I have chosen to teach is assertive discipline. I myself, with Amanda Masters, has put together this PowerPoint. However, we will both be doing our own slideshows. On the first slide, I have the table of contents, and each of the slides lists the topic for that slide. Before I get into assertive discipline, I wanted to speak a little bit about American education. The United States has no country-level education system. The federal government does not operate the public schools. Each of the 50 states has its own Department of Education that sets guidelines for the schools of that state. Each school district is governed by a school board, which is a small committee of people elected by the local community or appointed by the local government. The school board sets general policies for the school district and ensures that the state guidelines are met. A little bit of history on American education. In the 1640s, the Massachusetts Bay Colony made basic education compulsory, and similar statutes were adopted in other colonies. During the colonial era, literacy was to promote religious orthodoxy. In the early industrial era, the expansion of public education was a response to the transformation of society from agricultural to industrial and urban. In this era and the age of mass Eastern and Southern European immigration from 1880 to 1924, education was also about the assimilation or Americanization of new groups. In 1821, Boston started the first public high school in the United States. By the close of the 19th century, public secondary schools began to outnumber private ones. So on to assertive discipline. And if I can think back to any time when schools first began, back in history, I just gave you a little bit of history, children need structure. So along with that comes assertive discipline. So the definition of assertive discipline is structured, systematic approach designed to assist educators in running an organized, teacher-in-charge classroom environment. The development of assertive discipline. It was introduced in 1976 by Lee and Marlene Cantor. They developed it. That is them right there. And they created an assertive discipline model. When consulting for school systems, Lee and Marlene Cantor found that many teachers were unable to manage the undesirable behavior that occurred in their classrooms. The development of assertive discipline continued. It is the most widely used behavior management program. When appropriately implemented and used, it produces positive results. And I agree with that. Okay, so the purpose of assertive discipline, it is systematic and objective. So it helps you have a take control approach to managing a classroom of students. It outlines clear expectations as well as positive and negative consequences. It clearly defines rules and limits so the students know the boundaries of which not to cross. And it allows the teacher to be firm but positive. It builds students' self-esteem and encourages students to change old behaviors instead of creating the bad ones for the future. It helps the children or the students develop an interest in learning and cooperating together. And it makes the misbehaving student feel like a valued member of the classroom. I think that is key right there, because sometimes a lot of that, they're misbehaving because they want to feel valued. But when you make them, feel like you're giving them a purpose and you want them to succeed, they'll feel like a valued member in the classroom. So some strategies and techniques to help a teacher be assertive is to develop a teacher voice, which demands respect and authority. Always speak alone. If a student is speaking over you, that is not having authority over your class. So you need to make sure, I will speak when you're finished, and you speak alone. You react quickly to misbehavior. You hold high expectations for each and every student that you have, and you monitor positive behavior. So implementing techniques and strategies. To foster good relationships with students, the assertive teacher will need to model the trust and respect that she wants from the students. She needs to get to know students as individuals, talk to them, see what their likes and their dislikes are. I know a couple of times each time my children personally, when they go to class for the first day, they have a paper that they bring home and they have to fill out what they like, what they do, so the teacher can kind of get to know them a little better. You need to establish strong home school ties. So get to know the parents, let them know that you care about their children. You need to teach students the behaviors expected from them. So the students need to be aware of what you expect in the classroom. If they don't, they'll walk right all over you. You need to motivate and excite students to learn. They should want to come to school to want to learn. You need to establish a discipline plan so that they don't have to have any questions or think about, well, am I doing the right thing? Or they should already know this is the discipline plan and it should already be contracted. Implementing strategies and techniques continued. So along with that, the Cantors developed a 5-step discipline hierarchy of escalating consequences when rules are broken. So with the Cantors, they decided to create the first infraction as a warning, to just warn the students. The second is the student is given a 10-minute timeout. The third step is the student is given a 15-minute timeout. And the fourth is the student's parents are then called. The fifth one, the student is sent to the principal's office. So it goes in that order. And the student should know, based on this discipline plan, that the first infraction is a warning and so forth, and it increasingly gets, harsh as the student continues to misbehave. In my personal experience, I haven't ever been a teacher in a public school setting, but I am a teacher in my church. And while it is a little different, I think I can kind of see some similarities. I like to get to know my students in my class at church on a personal level, and I do. I know a lot of them on a personal level. In fact, that's how we build trust. So I can understand that. I can relate that to being a teacher in the classroom. And I know that helps with our relationship because I trust them and they trust me in that way. I know their families well. Like I said, they go to my church. I talk to their father, their mother, their siblings, and we all, talk together all the time. So I think that builds the trust again because they know, I know their parents know me. And I motivate them. I motivate my students at church. I let them know that I care and that, I know that they have the ability to do great things. Their behavioral expectations, while it is church, a lot of times they do act up and they do play around. They have cell phones. And, I let them know right off the bat that's like not acceptable. I don't want cell phones. I plan a lesson. I want you to put your cell phones away. And my discipline plan, there's really no discipline plan for church. They're pretty good girls that I teach, so I don't have to worry about that. But my experience as a mother, I know my children, of course, and I motivate them constantly. My behavioral expectations for them are definitely a little more harsh than my experience as a teacher in my church because obviously I'm mom and this is my home and this is how I raise my children, but they know the expectations that I have set for them here in my house and they know the discipline plan. If they don't follow A, B, or C, then D happens. So I definitely can relate to that, these two experiences to the teacher field, but I'm interested to know a lot of this that I'm learning and teaching that I can implement as I become a teacher. The next slide is Amanda's personal experiences. She'll speak a little about that in her. A scenario and an example that I have is, and I found this, I thought it was a great one. Andrew was a 7th grade student who does not want to work in your class. He is very friendly toward you and quick to say, "Oops, I'm sorry," when told that he is misbehaving. Yet he goes back to the misbehavior, constantly chatting with his neighbors and giving very little effort to the assignment at hand. You have heard from other teachers that he does not seem to be fazed by the idea of detention. Using assertive discipline, what can you do to get Andrew to stop talking and start working? So I thought about it, and I'm thinking, how would I deal with that, me being the teacher? And I think for me, I would calmly tell Andrew that because he has chosen to break the rules, that I'll be enforcing the first consequences outlined in my discipline plan. So prior to all of this, my students should know my discipline plan. They should know what the first consequence of that is. And if he continues, I will increase the consequences for each offense that I've outlined in the corrective discipline plan. That's how I would handle that scenario. I have 2 videos here that will be uploaded as well. And my reflection is, the foundation of building a trusting relationship with students is to have high expectations for them. Students not only want, but need teachers who believe in them and who care enough to push them to do their best. I think one of the best ways to build trust with students is to engage in non-academic talk. This helps you get on a personal level with the students to allow trust to build. Once that trust is built, students will be able to understand the boundaries and guidelines you set for their behavior, along with knowing the consequences of misbehaving. They'll want to please you as a teacher. And some of the questions that we have listed here are just about the slides that we just had. So the first one is, assertive discipline puts the kids in charge of class. True or false? And that one would be false. Assertive discipline definitely does not put kids in charge of the class. It puts the teacher in charge. She needs to have a take charge attitude. Number 2, there are how many steps in the Cantor's discipline hierarchy? And for that one, there's 5 steps. 5 steps. Number 3, an assertive teacher must do what to gain the trust and respect of her students? For that answer, a teacher must model trust and respect for her students. And number 4, assertive discipline was created by who? Assertive discipline was created by Lee and Marlene Cantor. And number 5, what is the most used behavior management program? And that would be assertive discipline, definitely. In my next 2 slides, I have my works cited, and then the end. Thank you very much for listening and watching my video.